Story 1. I wrote an entire full-length novel, about 100,000 words. It's not published, but I'm just proud of the fact that I completed it. Edit. Wow, this really blew up. Thank you for all the encouraging words. Everyone. Reddit can be such an awesome place sometimes. Story 2. I am proud that I have paid my credit cards to $0 for the 5th payday in a row. It's not much, but I am really proud to have improved my finances. Story 3. I'm proud of being alive today. 10 years ago, I didn't see a future after university and was highly depressed. Today, I'm on antidepressants and with an extremely supportive soon-to-be husband. Story 4. Talk down a guy from robbing me, killing me, and killing himself is burned into my mind and always will be. Story 5. I am the first person in my family to graduate from high school and went on to obtain a master's degree from one of the best universities in the world. However, my family still sees it as a waste of money. Story 6. I rescued a badly injured stray cat with a neck injury and nursed him back to health. I had to keep him inside and clean or change his surgery dressing twice daily. It took about 3 months for his wound to fully heal. Now he is my handsome, super friendly house cat, Larry. I'm proud that I helped him. Story 7. Lost 2 kids, one in 2004 and one a year later from failure to conceive. My wife got pregnant in 2011, and we found out on my birthday. She gave birth to a 10 pounds, 4 ounces boy, 22 inches. He's 12 now, and we're both happy. Story 8. I wrote, directed, and starred in my own movie that was released in cinemas last year and is currently being released worldwide on Apple TV and Amazon Prime. Mad typing that out. Definitely a true life goal achieved. Story 9. After my mom passed, I took my dad in to live with me. When he passed, I had him buried in Arlington National Cemetery. He was a great man and father who loved me and my family. Story 10. Last year, I finished the basement in our house. Studs, electrical, plumbing, the whole 9. Did the work myself with the help of a few friends and family. Had to learn a few new skills, put in a lot of hours, and probably upset the wife and kids more than a few times. But I can't remember many times I felt better than when I looked at the finished product. Story 11. I worked hard to overcome borderline personality disorder many years ago, even before the internet existed. Some say you cannot cure it, but when you no longer qualify for the diagnosis, I view that as the same thing. Regardless, it has not been a part of my life since then. Biggest accomplishment of my life. Story 12. Title: Breaking Past Depression and Overcoming My Inner Hell. Content: My abs are becoming prominent after going to the gym for 2 months. Story 13. I can't forget years ago when a butterfly was trapped in a spider web, about to be eaten. Being super arachnophobic, I didn't know what to do until I grabbed a random pebble, flicked it towards the web, and it hit the web beside the butterfly. The butterfly bounced off, flew over to me, and landed on my cheek before fluttering off. It's hard to imagine it happened, but I brag about it every chance I get. I hope it lived a fulfilling week and remembered me because I will never forget it. Story 14. Getting my FICO, Fair Isaac Corporation, score from 325 to 807 took years, to be honest. I learned to pay the bills first and not spend more money than I had. Story 15. I'm a bit hesitant to say this out of fear that I might jinx it, but I started my own business. I'm about a year and a half in now, and I'm almost at the point where I can quit my day job and work remotely on my business full-time. It is something I have been dreaming of for over 10 years, and I finally just somehow made it happen. It was a lot of hard work, and in hindsight, I am not even sure how I pulled it off. My motivation and energy level generally hold steady at about 0.1 out of 10, so yes, I am pretty amazed with myself, to be honest. Story 16. I just started a new job. I've been unemployed a lot this year, and finally found something that is interesting and will help me have a positive impact in the world. Story 17. Looking after my mom when she was ill. Volunteering at a food bank once a week for the past 2+ years. Donating blood 26 times. Story 18. Today, I went on the tube to Oxford Circus. My anxiety had stopped me from going on trains for the previous 5 years. Story 19. I was in a job interview for a job helping clean for people who are disabled or elderly. They asked me what I would do if an elderly client was very confused and was trying to make a cup of tea by putting a teacup directly on the hot stove element. I said I would turn off the stove, have her sit down, and then call the office. They were really impressed and said I was the only one they had interviewed to think to turn off the stove. I was really proud to be the only one to think of that. I have never been great in interviews, so it made me happy. Story 20. I was pregnant for 9 months and then had a cesarean section. Then, I survived colic with no family in my area beyond my husband. Man, was colic hard. I know so many women have, but no one said congratulations to me for making it through all of that. The focus went straight to my son, which I'm absolutely okay with, and I get it because he's a cutie. I'm proud of myself, though. Story 21. I paid most of my little brother's college tuition. Now, he has already graduated and passed the licensing exam for an engineering course. Story 22. Healed myself from most of my traumas and raising amazing kids who love and care for others as well as themselves. Picking myself up and gathering a decent life for myself and my kids. Story 23. Several years ago, before the pandemic, I had an idea for a new application. Today, it is complete and has a team behind it. We are working on our pitch to present to investors. Story 24. After college, I saved my money, broke up with my boyfriend of 3 years, and moved to Spain for 3.5 years. It was the best decision I ever made. Now, I'm back home in America and am content. Sometimes, I feel like that part of my life was a dream and didn't really happen. Story 25. I was working on building a water treatment plant on a reserve in northern Canada as a surveyor, despite having no surveying experience. The head surveyor, who was also my boss and in charge of everything, quit and just left the job site one day, driving the 11 hours back home. This essentially left me and my foreman to take over the job. My crew and I managed to finish the multi-million-dollar project after everything was suddenly handed to us out of the blue. I learned most of what I know about surveying and civil engineering on the fly. I am not a civil engineer by any stretch of the imagination, although I understood how to read drawings and codes because of my previous experience in the welding engineering technology field. I was 21 at the time, and that was 9 years ago. I have no idea how that project ever got completed. I worked 14-hour days and had some 60-day continuous stints at the work camp. I could never do a job like that again. Story 26. I had some photos that I took of Disneyland's Club 33 published in a tabloid several years ago. Got paid a small fee and got photo credit. Still makes me smile. Story 27. Back in 1978, I got tired of working in the pressing room at a clothing factory. I found an advertisement by a dentist that wanted an assistant and no experience was necessary. I got that job and turned it into a 38-year career. I am now retiring at the end of May. Story 28. 6 or 7 years ago, I was a person struggling with obesity and alcoholism, with poor credit, not having any idea what I wanted to do in life, no savings, and I was also dealing with depression. Today, I am sober. I occasionally have a beer here and there, but haven't gotten drunk or blacked out in those 6 years. My credit is in the high 700s. I have saved several $1,000s, got accepted into the electrical union in the most competitive branch, lost around 60 pounds, and am genuinely happier. It wasn't fast or easy, but I took it slow and was consistent with my changes. Seeing myself change has allowed me to find confidence in myself, thus making life changes easier. Story 29. So far, I have gained my dental radiology certification at 18 and am working on getting my expanded functions dental assistant license at 19. For me, these are both huge accomplishments because I was super unmotivated in high school. Story 30. Breaking up with my girlfriend. Seems so small, but she has hurt me so many times. Every time I never broke up with her, I took her back after she broke up with me. It has been 4 years. I finally broke up with her and told her what she did is wrong. I wished her the best and then told her to leave me alone and not contact me, and that I am done. It was so hard because I love her so much and I never got closure, and I will never get closure. But I didn't deserve someone who treated me poorly and came back when it was convenient for them. Story 31. My dog is healthy and happy. Every time we go to the dog park, He's the life of the party. I'm pretty proud of the good boy he's become. Story 32. I have gone all of April without watching pornography and masturbating. I lost 4 pounds of weight. I have only had 4 takeaways in April so far. Story 33. I paid for my master's abroad while holding 2 jobs. I am about to graduate from a program in English and I am a Spanish speaker, so there's that. Story 34. Although it's a double-edged sword, I've done lots of good deeds to help other people, big and small. Gone above and beyond to return lost items. Many phones, even a wallet full of cash once. I've helped strangers carry heavy things decent distances when I could see them struggling. Put myself in harm's way when I see someone being bullied, harassed, or mistreated. Gone out of my way to help friends in the middle of the night, emotional support, to give them lifts or help them move house, to buy them things that they can't afford, fix their tech without charge. I'm pretty handy. Almost always ends up being a thankless endeavor. Sometimes it screws me over, too. The world doesn't reward kindness much, unfortunately. But I know that I'm doing something good, and I guess I'm proud of that. Maybe someday that kindness will be returned. So I'm proud of me to some extent for being able to trust myself to do good and to help other people rather than hurt or hinder them for my own gain. It shouldn't be something worthy of praise, but this world is cruel, and everybody else seems to only be in it for themselves. Story 35. Graduated college. I have a real attention deficit hyperactivity disorder problem, so completing tasks is an accomplishment in itself. But this task, I will always be proud of myself for completing. Story 36. I am a bit late to this one, but I used to have my own company. I sold it, moved to the city of my dreams on another continent, and studied for a master's degree. But now I cannot find a job for the life of me. And nowadays, I'm just proud that I decide to sleep and wake up every day. Story 37. This will be buried, but I found a sick bird in my grandpa's driveway. I called the only bird veterinarian in my state and drove 3 hours with my mom to get it there. It had conjunctivitis, which does seem minor, but the lady there told me I saved its life, so I'm proud of that. Story 38. I was an emergency medical technician for 8 years. My personal proudest achievement during that time was when we responded to a half-hearted suicide attempt, to the point that there was nothing wrong with the person after the attempt except for the mental health aspect. The person's young son was there and was just absolutely freaking out, justifiably, about it all. I talked to the paramedic who responded to the scene with us, and he agreed to take my spot on the ambulance to take the patient to the emergency room and let me follow later in his vehicle. I sat with that kid for about an hour and a half just listening to him and talking to him. When I was growing up, my mom attempted suicide at least 3 times, so I understood how the kid felt and what he was thinking. I'd been there. It turns out that the kid's mom and the patient's ex-wife worked at one of our local hospitals. A few days later, she came up to me and thanked me for talking to him like that. She said she had no idea how she was going to talk to her son about what happened. Story 39. All the work I did with children. Smiley face. Edit, wait, downvote me. The person below says I am a bot, so I must be. Downvotes for bots all day. Baby. Story 40. I become 40 this year, and I finally got my first driving lesson yesterday. It's really going to change my life and that of my family. We're expecting a second child, and I thought it was about time I started to learn how to transport my family in an easier way and to lose my dependence on others. Story 41. I finally figured out why I was depressed and anxious for so many decades and found the courage to face it and address it. I am no longer depressed and only very rarely anxious. Very proud of myself. Easily the hardest thing I have ever done. Story 42. Well, like 15 years ago, after building a house with my fiancée, she cheated. We split and I hit a hard time in my life. I sold the house, got depressed, quit my electrician's job, and had to live with my evil mother, who would bash me every day. So I up and left and said to her, "You'll regret how you treated me in my low point. I'll never forget." I didn't speak to her for like 6 months, got my act together, wound up making some really big moves, and made an ungodly amount of money. I showed up to her house in a new Audi and built a house myself. Took me 4 years. It was a beautiful place. I bought a Cadillac and rubbed it in her face. She was full of regrets and wanted to be my best friend, knowing I was back on top. Screw her. Story 43. I built a 3-meter by 5-meter cottage on our property with no building experience from entirely recycled materials. It's awesome. Story 44. I am proud of how far I have come with drawing as a hobby. Kid me wanted to be able to draw Pokemon and cartoons really well, and I feel like I made my inner child proud with my progress. Story 45. Prevented at least 2 suicides that I am aware of, 1 mid-attempt and 1 still in the contemplation stage. The one that was mid-attempt was a minor on an inpatient psychiatric unit, and thank all that is holy the technician had the vibe something was wrong and trusted me enough to come get me. The contemplation stage 1 was on a medical floor. The patient had been hospitalized for several months due to a major, life-changing medical mishap that occurred at a health system elsewhere. The patient also had zero support system, lives in poverty, and had hard legal deadlines they had to meet that were coming up quickly. I had been their nurse several times previously and was aware that they had no support system but not about anything else. They were mid-panic attack and I talked them through it. The despair and resignation etched on their face and underlying their panic, man. You'd have to have a heart of stone not to want to do something to relieve their mental anguish. They were due to be discharged to rehabilitation in the next few days, and from there they would be discharged to home. They needed a friend, a support person. They were so close to turning their face to the metaphorical wall and willing themselves to die. I gave them my number and coordinated to bring them lunch at the rehabilitation place and struck up a friendship that I feel confident will last. I am so glad I listened to my gut and checked in with that patient the night of their panic attack. It changed the course of both our lives.